My son's camera monitor went off in the middle of the night. When I checked it, I saw my wife and son sitting on his bed. They weren't my wife and son. I'm a nurse, I work nights. Just after 3 a.m., the monitor alerted me sound and movement. Nothing unusual. My son is 3. He sleeps through most nights now, so I figured he'd coughed or cried out. I pulled up the app on my phone. There they were, my wife and son, sitting together on his bed. Then I noticed how they were sitting. Both of them perfectly still except for their breathing, staring directly up at the camera. Blank, emotionless. The night vision painted their eyes pure white, eerie and glassy. They didn't blink, they didn't move, they just stared. I closed the app and called my wife. She answered groggy, clearly half asleep. Hello. Hey, you guys okay? Yeah, Buddy came in about 15 minutes ago. Scared, so I let him sleep with me. I froze. I'd just seen them on the camera 60 seconds earlier. Wait, you're in bed right now? Yeah, everything okay? Everybody keeps waking me up. I put her on speaker and pulled up the app again, praying I wouldn't see what I'd seen before. They were still there, same blank stares. You guys are in bed, right? I asked her. Yeah, trying to sleep. I'm looking at his camera right now. I see you both sitting on his bed. What? No, we're in our room. I know that's what you think, but the camera shows you on his bed. She went quiet. I heard her pull up the app on her end. Then I heard a gasp, this deep, guttural, terrified intake of breath, like she'd sucked every ounce of air out of the room. I've heard my wife scared before. This wasn't that. This was something else entirely. The line went dead. I called back immediately. Voicemail. I called again. And again. 4 minutes passed before she finally answered, hysterical, crying too hard to form words. Slow down, I said. Just breathe. She managed to explain. She'd grabbed our son and run straight out of the house, left the garage door wide open, and was driving to her parents. Don't you dare go in there, she said. I won't. Is it a recording? Why are we still on camera? I don't know, I'll keep watching. Do the code words with Buddy. We'd made up code words years ago as a joke between us, after watching too many alien imposter movies. A little 3-part story we recited alternately, each saying our piece, just to confirm we were really us. I never imagined we'd actually need it. I listened as she recited it with our son over the phone. He giggled, thinking it was a game like always. She said her part. I was as certain as I could be that was really her. She made it to her parents safely. Before we hung up, she told me something that still gives me chills. Running past our son's room, she caught a glimpse, just out of the corner of her eye, of a shadowy, adult-sized shape sitting on his bed, lit faintly by the camera's connection light. I stayed at work the rest of my shift, checking the camera constantly. They were still there, still staring, still blinking, but the blinking was what convinced me this wasn't some kind of looped recording. It was erratic, random, exactly like real human blinking. And through the window behind them, I watched the sky slowly lighten with the actual sunrise. This wasn't a glitch. This was real, and it was happening live. I told a coworker, a guy who firmly believes in the paranormal. He watched the footage, said it was creepy as fuck, and insisted we go check the house ourselves. We drove over, circled the perimeter first. Curtains drawn, nothing visible. I went to close the garage, and something pulled me toward the front door instead, an overwhelming need to know what was happening inside. We went in. The house was dead silent. We reached the base of the stairs. I checked the camera again. They were still sitting there. My coworker put his foot on the first step. Stop, I said. We're leaving now. That's when we heard it, a loud creak from directly above us. My son's room has one board that always creaks when you step on it. We ran. Outside, I checked the phone. Only my son, or whatever it was, remained on the bed. My wife's double was gone. We closed the garage remotely and left. One last glance at the app showed both of them back on the bed together, staring up, blinking every few seconds, exactly as before. For 4 straight days, they didn't move from that bed. I'm sorry this update took so long. It's been an unbearable month. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital. On day 6, we finally called the police. I told dispatch there were intruders in my house, leaving out the part where they looked exactly like my family. 2 units were sent. My friend and I got there first. I was legally carrying my 1911. I also had my father-in-law's AR-15 in my trunk, though I didn't mention that to the officers. I wasn't planning on needing it. I told the responding officers the whole story. FaceTimed my wife so they could see she genuinely wasn't in the house, despite what the camera showed. They were skeptical but curious enough to stay. My friend suggested a test. He went around back and tossed a pebble at my son's window while I turned the camera volume all the way up. The moment it hit the glass, the imposter wife's head turned slightly toward the sound, the first movement either of them had made in days. "Okay, this is live," one officer said. "You two stay outside, we're going in." They radioed in and disappeared into the house. Seconds later, the camera feed cut out. I nearly threw up. I grabbed the rifle from my trunk and ran for the garage. From inside the house came a low, guttural howl, inhuman, followed by raised voices, then gunshots. "Shots fired," the radio cut off mid-sentence. I ran upstairs, and the moment I hit the top step, I opened fire straight through my son's bedroom wall. 30 rounds, sprayed low and wide, aiming for anything near the bed or the door. Screaming from inside, then silence. We went in, stepped over one dead officer in the hallway, decapitated. Found the second inside my son's room, torso torn open like he'd been impaled. And on the floor, the thing wearing my wife's face, bullet-riddled, breathing hard, whimpering. "I don't want to die, honey," it begged. "I wanted more kids, I can't die now." I looked at what wore my son's body, already dead, shot through the head and torso. I fell to my knees. I knew it wasn't really them, I knew it, but I couldn't pull the trigger. "It's not her, man," my friend said. "Shoot it." I finally noticed the blood on the floor wasn't red, it was yellow. I steadied my aim. The thing stopped begging instantly, let out a horrible shriek, and something dark and tendril-like began pushing out of its mouth. I fired, its head came apart. It was mortal, at least. Sirens were already approaching. My friend went down to brief the arriving officers. I stood, dizzy, and stepped into the hallway. My bedroom door opened. Something wearing my exact face and clothes stepped out. I froze, it didn't. Its right arm turned black, morphing into a writhing tentacle, and it drove the appendage straight through my abdomen, then my leg. I collapsed. It leaned over me, its voice cycling through pitches, mine, then something deeper, then mine again, asking why I'd killed its family. I still had my sidearm. I fired into its knee. It staggered. I fired twice more into its side. Then, with the last of my strength, I put a bullet through its face. Yellow blood again. I made a tourniquet from my belt, packed my stomach wound with my shirt, and passed out from blood loss. My nursing training probably the only reason I survived long enough for EMS to reach me. I woke up in the hospital mid-transfusion. My wife had authorized emergency treatment while I was unconscious. She was furious I'd gone into the house, but we're okay now. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital fighting off an infection. Police questioned me constantly. My friend corroborated everything, thankfully, or none of it would have sounded remotely believable. Halfway through my stay, men in suits showed up. Government, possibly FBI, though I have my doubts. They wanted to discuss the intruders. The police chief and coroner were both involved, and everyone made it very clear this would never become public. A few days later, I got a bouquet of flowers with a note tucked inside. "We don't know what they are. Same organs as us in different places aside from the brain. What's red and pink in us is green and yellow in them. Humanoid but not human, possibly extraterrestrial. Destroy this letter immediately." Our house was professionally cleaned by a company with no online presence whatsoever. No reviews, nothing traceable. Almost certainly another government contractor. We're never going back there. We'd burn it down if we could get away with it. Instead, we'll take the loss and eventually sell to someone who never finds out what actually happened inside those walls. I told everyone at work it was a home invasion. They believed it. I know people want a clean answer. What exactly were they? Why did they spend a week just sitting there instead of trying to replace us completely? I don't have that answer. Nobody does. If they were aliens, keep your eyes open. There could be more of them out there.